My parents won the lottery again and told me in a rush they were going out to a restaurant. As always, I refused and stayed home. When the front door slammed shut, I began to record another video. It was important to me. My parents considered it pointless nonsense and were always noisy even when I asked them to be quiet. I had to send them away on some pretext. Whenever I had an idea for a video, you're probably wondering how I, a kid, can make my parents leave the house. It's very simple. That lottery belongs to me, and at just the right moment, I send them the winning ticket. They've always been big spenders, so they've run out and burned through the money right away. Yeah, my parents don't know how to handle money at all. No matter how much of it fell into their hands, they still managed to spend it in a matter of days. They consider themselves lucky and say that fortune itself loves them. Because of this, I hide my income from them, as well as the purchases I make with my own money. It's pretty difficult, but there's no turning back at this point. I just have to keep moving forward and hope they don't figure it out. Hello, everyone. My name is Natalie, and I earn more than my parents, but they don't know, and I hope they never find out. Now, don't think I'm greedy or stingy. That's not it at all. I have completely different reasons, and I'm going to tell you about them. My parents are both carefree dreamers. In their whole life, my dad has only worked a month. Since then, all he's ever done is go searching for treasure. My mom was once an architect, but after she met my dad, she fell under his influence and became infected with the dream of suddenly discovering infinite riches. She began to paint pictures and put them up for auction and hoped that they would sell for millions of dollars. You know, I don't know how likely that is, but I'm sure that they wouldn't immediately spend that money too. There's no way they wouldn't. From the time I was a little kid, my parents tried to convince me that money is something that we should enjoy and that not spending it is a sin. But I saw how sometimes we had to go hungry because of their approach. So I started saving up to help out when that happened. My parents were upset that their daughter didn't know how to enjoy life. So I stopped giving them my money, but I didn't stop saving. At the same time, I tried to shoot some videos, but my phone's camera was terrible. After a while, I managed to buy a camera and I started working on my channel. In earnest, of course, my parents didn't know about any of this and thought all my talk of vlogging was just nonsense. Over time, though, I started earning way more than they did, and the channel became more than just a hobby. I had to come up with a way to stay home alone more often. Then I remembered my parents' dreams of suddenly coming into money. I paid a programmer to make a lottery website and then sent my parents an email advertising it. They were the only visitors to the site, and one large sum when it was convenient for me. Sometimes my parents scolded me for being too serious about life and money and asked me to at least to take it a little easier. One day, my mother found my stash and simply bought a bunch of home accessories with all the money. When I was indignant, she and Dad just made fun of me and called me greedy and cheap. I was pretty upset, but they had all the power, and I realized that sooner or later, I would have to start playing by their rules. Then I realized there was another option. I could start pretending, and then my parents would treat me a little differently. I had to pretend that I, too, was happy to spend money like water, that I was burning through all the money they gave me. They praised me for it. Everything seemed to be going well, but other clients appeared on the lottery site. Apparently, my parents told other people about all their winnings. I wasn't ready for this, and neither was the system. Suddenly, people were winning left and right. There were so many winners that their prizes drained the majority of my savings. It was a total mess, and I was angry with myself for not realizing that this might happen. I had to pay out the winnings to all the participants and close the site to avoid being penalized for running lotteries without a license. I was very angry and knew I needed to find a new option. I had to figure out how to distract my parents. Still, the lottery seemed like a worthy investment, and soon I opened a real lottery with all the proper documents. My parents remained in a special account and received winnings at my request specifically, whenever I wanted to go somewhere. Over time, the numbers that were on my account began to grow, and together with the absence of a large expense, allowed me to accumulate a sufficient amount to buy a home. I could hardly trust my parents with the money, but I was too young to make purchases like that. Then I found a third party, and I transferred the money to buy the apartment I needed and launched a housing lottery. Now, I didn't take into account the fact that before I had sent the money to my parents from my pocket, bypassing the general lottery competition, now as to deliberately giving them the main prize. It turned out to be the largest draw in the history of my site, and I was delighted with the profit, which, by the way, just covered about half the cost of the apartment. But the happiness didn't last long. The third party turned out to be a fraud, and my parents didn't receive any apartment. In addition, my lies were uncovered, and as a result of the investigation, everyone found out who was behind the rigged lottery. It seemed like my life was falling apart. The lottery accounts were seized. I was ordered to return the money to my clients. My views plummeted, and all my advertisers were breaking contracts with me. I've never felt so scared and so terrible. The only thing was that my parents were on another trip and didn't have time to find out about anything. Back at home, I could calmly think about how to solve the problem, but I just kept thinking in circles. There was no way to fix it. I recorded a farewell video for my viewers and sold all my equipment. This amount together with the remaining savings was enough to cover the cost and most of the debts. There were still tens of thousands of dollars that I had to get somewhere. Then suddenly, someone got in touch with me and offered to help. He said that he had information about that third party and that he was caught and convicted. That person also somehow made him take the blame for organizing a fake prank, and my reputation was cleared. My parents were on vacation when they heard about everything. At first, they got very angry and shouted at me for a long time. I tried to make excuses, but they didn't want to hear it, so I was petrified for them to get home. We had a serious conversation. I had to tell them everything about how I was earning money and how I felt about their way of life. At first, they accused me of being ungrateful and foolish, but in the end, they managed to understand me and even admitted that they weren't blameless about what had happened. Moreover, all of a sudden, some unknown person bought my mother's painting for $500,000. It was an incredible look. Unfortunately, this time my parents didn't rush immediately to waste money. They decided to spend it on something useful. They gave me money to clear out my debts, and then they agreed to buy back my filming equipment and even help me set up a full-fledged studio in my room. Camera, tripods, microphones, noise isolation. Oh, that was very expensive, but it was on a completely different level. My parents have changed a lot and seem to have matured over the past few decades. They didn't grow old, but they got a lot more mature. Before they acted like teenagers, and now they were finally acting like adults. I was very happy about that. We started to get closer and learn to trust each other. Dad opened his own small shop where he began to sell various antiques. It seemed to really make him happy. My mother continuously paints pictures, but only in her free time. Now she's an interior designer, and she loves what she does. In one conversation, my dad confessed to me that when he was a kid, his family was very poor, and his parents had to count every penny and scrimped on everything: food, clothes, shoes. He and his brother grew up knowing what it meant to live in poverty. As an adult, he was trying to do whatever he could to not feel like he did as a child. He finally saw that I was happy doing what I was doing, and since then, he and my mother have supported me. It's strange, but I never even believed that we would one day be able to find common ground. I don't even know why I had such a bad opinion of my parents. By the way, that mysterious stranger who agreed to help me turned out to be the same one who bought my mother's painting and my parents, and I really wanted to know who he is to thank him and say how much he did for our family. But his identity was hidden. However, a month later, my mother received an email from a childhood friend of hers. It turned out that the guy was seriously injured many years ago and was confined to a wheelchair. He lost the will to live and fell into depression. The only person who supported him was my mother. Once she told me that there is nothing more important than life itself, and that his not being able to walk didn't mean anything. Many can't feel, and that is much worse. It was these words that helped him continue to live and move on. And despite the fact that their parents parted when he moved, he always thought about her. After a while, he became very rich and wanted to thank my mother, but didn't know how best to do it. He kept tabs on our family, and when he found out about our problems, he decided that it was his time to act, and in fact, his help turned out to be very important to us. He arrived just in time. Do you think it's better to enjoy the moment and live for the day? Or is it more important to think about the future and take care of tomorrow? Write your opinion in the comments and like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a new video tomorrow.